Hello, my name is Dukat, and as you can probably tell from whatever I decide to title this video, sorry, there's a kitty tail in the foreground here sometimes. That's my cat's tail. What was I saying? Oh yes, I have been mending and altering and tailoring some garments, and I forgot to film an intro, so hello, here I am, just talking from the future. And this all started, well, first of all, because I always have a giant pile of things that need the mending, but also I had some plans for alterations and thought it would be good to do in a video. But then I got a bunch of things from a bunch of secondhand dresses from a friend of mine, and so I was gonna do like a secondhand haul, but I scrapped that. And so here is me talking about the dresses. I got 4 dresses, and I received all of these from a close friend of mine who can't fit them anymore, and since they are secondhand, most of them don't fit me exactly right either, but I'll start with the one that did fit me, and that's this rose pink dress with lace and some pleats and cute ruffling at the bottom here. As I said, this dress fit perfectly, so the only thing that it really needs is some steaming on the skirt fabric. So what I'm going to try first is shower steaming it, so that hopefully I won't have to try ironing it and preserving these pleats. I also will have to be careful not to burn this fabric because it's polyester, and just with all these pleats, that is gonna be kind of a hassle. So hopefully the steaming works.
Yeah, so I didn't really expect this to work, and alas, it did not. I ended up very painstakingly pinning each pleat into place, ironing at a low polyester safe heat, and scooting the pins down. Rinse and repeat until I made it all the way around the skirt.
This dress has quite a story. My friend got it for one of her birthdays, but it took like 6 months for the dress to arrive for some reason, and then she finally got it, and then lent it out to a friend at one point, and then it didn't come back to her for like another couple of years. So this dress has been through a lot. I also remember my friend wore it when she and I dressed up to go see The Great Gatsby. I wore like a fringy flappery kind of dress, and she wore this one, so that was a really fun, cute experience that this dress also has. I will also be wearing it to her wedding coming up. So yeah, I feel like this dress has come full circle, and it's like perfect because it just fit me perfectly. Next I have this very cute cotton red dress with cutouts. I love the material. Cotton is my absolute favorite material to wear, especially in the summer. It's more breathable. It doesn't pill like polyester does. Like, I'll pick cotton over any fabric any day, but as you can see on the torso, the sides don't fit quite right, so I'll just have to bring a little bit of the fabric in on the side seams, which is a totally easy and doable simple fix for this dress. My friend and I were also thinking it would make a cute romper, but I haven't decided that because it's also cute as a dress as is. So it would be simpler not to alter it, but we'll see. To be determined. Next I have this very cute patterned baby doll dress with lace trimmings. Again, this one is too big in the torso, so I can bring in the fabric a little bit on the side seams, and then I also would kind of like to emphasize the angled neckline that it has, and it already has some ruching right here at the corner of the neckline, so I think I can just draw that in a little bit tighter, but I'll have to be careful when I'm altering because there's no closure on this dress. It just has an elastic waistband, so when I'm taking in the torso fabric, I just have to make sure that I don't also limit the elastic in any way, because then I won't be able to get in and out of the dress. And lastly, we have this princess dress. Well, I call it the princess dress, and you'll see why. It has this very pretty crushed velvet on top, and then it has flared arms and a cinched waist. And again, the torso is a little bit too big, and actually because this dress has sleeves on it, this is going to be the most complicated fix of any of these dresses. So what I think I'll have to do in order to fix this is to take the sleeve out completely and then adjust the remaining fabric on the torso, and then reattach the sleeve with a little bit of the cap of the sleeve trimmed off, because the shoulder itself is a little bit bit too much fabric for me. This is definitely going to be the trickiest alteration, but I think it'll be worth it because it's such a pretty dress. So I think I can do the adjustments. I'll just have to be very careful when I'm doing them. So we're in DIY mending mode. The first step is the very scientific method of putting the dress on. I'm going to pinch where I want it to fit, fold it down, and then I'm gonna safety pin it.
So sorry for this angle, but the tripod is broken, so don't mind me. Anyways, I flipped the dress inside out, and using the places I marked with the safety pins, I pinned a dart line to sew along, this time with regular sewing pins. I then used my trusty, very heavy sewing machine from the 60s to sew along my pin darts, took a face mask break, and then tried the dress on for fit. And now for the angled collar.
So we're gonna be taking the same technique that they used here. It's ruching basically, where I'm gonna stitch one line here without locking it on either side, and at the end I'll be able to pull the threads and tighten this ruching up.
I sewed the ruche off camera, and here I am pulling said threads. I'll knot them off and for extra security top stitch over the edges at the machine, also off camera. I've noticed some ballooning fabric here, so I'll pin it and stitch it in conjunction with the next step, which is to add a lining to this light colored, ever so slightly transparent fabric. I'm using here another third hand garment that I never wear as is, but just might wear more as a cropped shirt. I'll trim, slit, and fit this to the bodice outline, then hand stitch it and secure the extra fabric I pinned earlier all in one step. And after a nice pressing, it's done. Oh, kitty.
Hello, it has been weeks and weeks since I last filmed anything for my current batch of mending and altering garments, of which I have a giant pile, and since then the pile has grown, which is yikes. But today is quite a gloomy cold day, so it is the perfect weather to just stay inside and sew. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So a thing that I've already started off camera is seam ripping the sleeves off of this princess dress, which is too big for me in the torso. So I'm going to take the sleeves out and then trim a little bit off of them, alter it so that the torso fits me better. I have a black shirt that I like to wear quite a lot that has a hole right in the front, right here, that I'm just going to be patching up. Same deal on this white shirt on the back of it, right there. And then I have a blue kind of work shirt that was secondhand, but this one also has a rip in the back part of it, which I want to patch up with a specific technique that I'll tell you about later. I have a thing about blue shirt mending. And then I have a pair of jeans. They have a very big knee rip, and I know that that's common and some people have ripped jeans for style, but unfortunately this one was totally ripped by wear, and it happens to be on the knee, which means that because the weft threads of this are plastic, when I crouch down it digs into my knee. So I just want to patch this up instead of having ripped jeans for fashion, because these are not my fashionable jeans. They are plain old working outside jeans that I bought at a thrift store years ago. But you may be able to tell that yes, they are dirty. I did wear them outside, and I actually have not washed them because if I wash them in this state, I'm afraid that this hole is just gonna get worse and worse. So I want to patch it before I wash them. So there's gonna be dirt in the patching, like permanently on these pants, but it's just dirt and you won't even be able to see it, and they're also work pants, so I really don't care. And then the last thing that I want to see if I can get to today is taking in the sides of this dress. Those are the things. Oh, also I have these pair of work gloves that I've been using outside. Hello. They have a hole in them as well. I don't know if you can see. So I'll be mending that as well. Okay, so let's go. I think first I'm gonna start with these tiny holes. because they are the simplest things to fix.
For this very tiny hole in this very delicate knit, I will use a very handy device called mending tape. This is coated in an iron-on adhesive on one side, so I'll simply cut a small square large enough to secure the hole and press it on. PSA number 2, don't be like me and turn your shirt inside out only to iron your mending square onto the outside of your shirt. You'll feel exceedingly dumb. And yes, I do use a towel as my ironing board. The floor is a great workspace, and towels take up less storage space than ironing boards. First, then down and on to the next. The black shirt with the tiny hole. I have the shirt here inside out, and since I do not own any black mending tape, this is going to be a good old-fashioned pinch and mend. The hole is quite close to a front center seam, so I opted to pinch the hole into said seam to strengthen my mend and disguise the pinch. This will result in the ever so slightest pucker at the bottom of the shirt, but it's not really that noticeable, so I don't mind it. Let's work on the princess dress next. So with my handy dandy seam ripper, I'm ripping out the shoulder seam. PSA number 3 is be careful with the seam ripper, and especially be careful around crushed synthetic velvet, because I've already messed up and stuck a hole in my sleeve, which luckily I'll be able to cut off later, but we don't always get lucky, so be careful. This is also a great time to listen to audiobooks. I have on Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire, which was pretty dry but still thought-provoking. And PSA number 4 is pet your cats when they ask you to.
It will be seen that the preconditions were lacking. False love, false humility.
Once the sleeves are off, that is enough princess dress for now.
So next, I think I want to tackle this blue work shirt, and I showed you guys that it has a little hole, and I'm going to be mending this using a technique called sashiko, which is a traditional Japanese mending technique that simply uses an extra piece of scrap fabric and then a running stitch that you just use in a decorative and structural way. And I said that I have a thing about mending blue work shirts, and the thing is that I just think sashiko is the most beautiful, cutest way to mend a blue work shirt. I think it goes right with the aesthetic. And I guess a little bit of backstory about this, I did a whole entire project using sashiko and mending one of my dad's old work shirts that was just in tatters, and you can see that I never even really finished it. And there's also patches that he previously repaired it with using glue and other miscellaneous patches that he had, but I just think it is the most beautiful pairing of aesthetics, because a blue work shirt has such a utilitarian aesthetic already that it doesn't suffer from losing any amount of cleanliness to the garment's look. And I just think sashiko has such a visible story, and same with the work shirts. I just think they pair so nicely and beautifully together. I love it. So I'm gonna be doing that. I have an entire collection of scrap fabrics specifically for this purpose of mending things using sashiko, and I also have a small collection of embroidery floss that I use for that purpose as well. So yeah, that is what I'm going to be using on my blue shirt. I did get this secondhand from an old roommate who got it from someone in her life, and so this garment has life, this type of garment has a story, and I just think that this mending technique goes so well with it. First, of course, is picking a scrap fabric. I like a lot of muted colors, kind of depending on the context. A lot of these scraps are from a quilt my mom sewed when she was younger, and some of them are my dye samples from school, so I kind of just have collected ones that I think would make good patches on different things. And you also kind of want to match the texture of the fabrics you're sewing together. That green was pretty but too wallpapery, so I ended up picking this tan plaid, which feels synthetic to the touch, but in this case I'm okay with that. The shirt is already getting a bit threadbare, so I'll probably wear it as long as I can. Then I don't know, maybe I'll frame it or something if it ends up looking really nice. Next step is to pick a floss. Kitty, you're showing your butt to the camera. Oh. appease your cat, knot off your thread, then just start a running stitch. Remember to wear a thimble and wax your threads because you will thank yourself later. Also, it can help to do a running back stitch, especially when you move rows in reverse directions. I'm not doing anything fancy with the stitch design here because it's just a small patch, but there are very precise and symbolic stitching practices and traditions that I'm not really going to get into today. I just want to encourage people to do some mending and have a dialogue with their garments and get away from the consumables relationship we have with our clothes. Next up, the slit jeans in the same method of sashiko. First, I'm going to get rid of the poly threads, and this time I'll use a scrap denim patch. I said this earlier, but it's good to try and match the texture of your mend with the field of your garment because heavier cloth will end up wearing the thinner cloth, and the weight distribution of tension on the cloth will be more even if the fabrics match weights. I liked this little squarish piece because it says left and it's going on the right leg of my jeans, so I just kind of thought that was funny, in addition to like fitting the spot and the size really well. Sometimes you have to take kitty breaks. And sometimes you have to just sew around and in between kitty. Et voila, 出来上がり. And onto the red, just kidding. Back to the princess dress. We have removed the sleeves and we're ready to make some alterations. I put the dress on so that I can fit the torso to myself, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch the sides to where I want them and then measure with a measuring tape how much I've pinched. That's about 1.5 inches on each side. So I turn the dress inside out, measure a conservative 1.5 inches at the armpit, tapering to more of a dart, and pin in a line to stitch along. Pro tip, do try not to poke yourself as you are trying on your alterations. So right now I'm pretty happy with how it fits right under my arms, but I'm going to loosen it up a little bit right here at the base of my torso because my figure goes like that. So I'm just taking in the torso of the dress to go more like that as well. Pro tip number 2, if your machine is being funky, when in doubt, try the tension. Okay, so around this time my card got full, so off camera I pinned and basted one sleeve back to its armhole as is, bunching it up at the top a bit to create a small puff sleeve look. My other sleeve, however, has an unfortunate hole that I poked while seam ripping the arm seam earlier, and this hole proved resistant to mends, so I wanted to test how this sleeve would do if I just trimmed off up until the hole, which is basically what I'd originally planned, to just take off some of the sleeve fabric, and this proved to be the better fit, so I trimmed them both, repinned them by inserting the right side out sleeve into the inside out armhole, in other words right sides together. And it helps to mark with a pin where the very top of your sleeve is. And stitch along the arm seam. To finish the raw edges, I simply went back around with a zigzag stitch on the seam allowance. on the inside of the dress. はい、出来上がり! And now onto the red. For this one, I used the very same technique of trying on the dress and pinching it to figure out where to move the side seams into. I'll stitch the new seam and top stitch once on each side so that the excess interior fabric will lie flat inside the dress. I didn't cut the seam allowance on this one, so it'll be easy enough to undo it if I or anyone else needs to. After a quick iron, this one is done as well. Et voila! Lastly, the work gloves. I'm just gonna do another sashiko patch on these ones, so I'll turn it inside out, stick my hand in so I don't sew the glove to itself, and finagle it together. Just for the hecky of it, let's do a spin of our work garments too, shall we? And that's everything. Here are all of the things. They are all good to go. They're ready to wear or ready to wash. Some of them need to be washed, but yeah, I won't need to sew on them or work on them at least for now until they rip again, or you know, whatever the case may be. And I guess I would like to encourage everyone to mend your garments. Take care of your clothes. Show them love, and you can love them longer in return. And that is the end of my PSA. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in another video whenever I make one. Yeah, bye bye. Mata ne.